Have you ever noticed how some people are incredibly polished all the way up until the moment they resign, and then suddenly everything changes? They stop responding with the same professionalism. Their attitude shifts. They disengage from meetings. They gossip more openly. They drop the standard they worked so hard to build. Some even act like professionalism no longer applies because they are already leaving anyway. And it is always striking because in those final days, people often reveal more about their character than they did in the years before. That is what we're talking about today. Today's episode is about how to leave an organization the right way. Because the truth is, how you join an organization matters, but how you leave matters too. In some ways, it matters just as much. The way you exit shapes your reputation. It affects what people remember about you. It influences whether doors stay open or quietly close. And it says a lot about your professionalism, your maturity, and the kind of career you are really building. Before we dive in, I've included links in the description to free resources on the website to help you grow in your communication, leadership, and confidence at work. And if you want to go deeper into leadership and strategic thinking, you can also check out my book, The Strategy Blueprint, a step-by-step guide to building your company strategy, available now on Amazon. Now let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Work Chat, where we help you navigate the modern workplace with more clarity, confidence, and influence. And today we're talking about something that does not get discussed enough: how to leave an organization well. Because a lot of professionals spend a lot of time thinking about how to get the job, how to grow in the job, and how to move up from the job. But not enough people think carefully about how to exit the job with integrity. And that matters, because leaving well is not just about being nice. It is about protecting your reputation, preserving relationships, and finishing with the same standard you wanted people to associate with your name in the first place. So let's start with the core mindset. Resigning does not cancel professionalism. That is where a lot of people go wrong. The moment they decide to leave, they mentally detach from the standards that used to matter. They start acting like accountability no longer applies because they are on their way out. They stop caring about how they communicate. They stop being thoughtful about handoffs. They become emotionally loose. Sometimes they even treat the notice period like dead time. That is a mistake, because your last impression often sticks more powerfully than you think. People may forget a lot of the day-to-day details of your job, but they will absolutely remember whether you left with maturity or whether you became difficult, careless, or strangely unprofessional once your resignation was in. So the first principle is this: leave with the same standard you wanted to be known for. If you wanted to be known as reliable, stay reliable. If you wanted to be known as thoughtful, stay thoughtful. If you wanted to be known as a strong communicator, then communicate well all the way through the end. Your notice period is not a free pass to become a lesser version of yourself. It is actually the final chapter of your professional brand in that organization. And the people around you are paying attention. Your manager, your peers, and your direct reports are all looking at how you behave. This is an important reminder because these people may one day become your references, advocates, clients, or future colleagues. So do not let short-term emotions damage long-term reputation. The second principle is this: be clear, direct, and respectful when you resign. When it is time to resign, do it cleanly. That means telling the right person first, usually your manager, before the news starts spreading elsewhere. It means being direct without being cold. It means not turning a resignation conversation into a dramatic performance, a long complaint session, or a speech about everything the organization did wrong. You do not need to over-explain. You do not need to sound guilty. You do not need to make the conversation emotionally messy. A simple, professional message is usually best. I wanted to let you know that I've decided to resign from my role. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I want to work with you to make the transition as smooth as possible. That kind of message does a few important things. It is clear, it is respectful, and it shows that even though you are leaving, you still intend to handle the transition responsibly. That matters more than people realize. The third principle is this: do not use your final weeks to say everything you were holding in. This is where professionalism often breaks down. Some people resign and suddenly feel the urge to finally be honest. They start saying all the things they've been sitting on. They become more sarcastic, more reactive, more openly critical. They start venting under the banner of being real. Now, to be clear, I am not saying you should never give honest feedback. Sometimes thoughtful feedback is valuable. Sometimes an exit conversation is an appropriate place to share useful insight. But there is a big difference between constructive honesty and emotional dumping. If your goal is to leave well, you need to ask yourself, am I saying this because it is useful? Or am I saying this because I want release? Those are not the same thing. A lot of people confuse emotional relief with professional closure. But closure does not always come from saying everything. Sometimes it comes from leaving with self-control. The fourth principle is this: make your handoff part of your professionalism. One of the clearest signs of a strong professional is how they handle transition. Do they leave things messy? Do they disappear emotionally before they are physically gone? Do they make other people scramble to figure out what they were doing, what is pending, what is urgent, and what got dropped? Or do they leave things in a way that helps the team move forward? A good exit includes a good handoff. That means documenting key information, clarifying what is still in progress, flagging risks or pending decisions, making sure important relationships or processes do not just vanish with you, and helping people understand what needs attention after you are gone. This is not about overfunctioning or making yourself indispensable until the last minute. It is about leaving responsibly, because the strongest professionals do not just do good work while they are there. They think about the impact of their departure too. The fifth principle is this: stay emotionally disciplined. Leaving a job can bring up a lot of emotions: excitement, relief, disappointment, resentment, validation, fear, bitterness, freedom, sometimes all at once. And if you are not careful, those emotions start driving your behavior. You become sharper than usual, looser than usual, more dismissive, more performative, more checked out, more tempted to say things you would not normally say. This is why emotional discipline matters so much during a departure. You do not need to suppress reality. You do not need to pretend everything was wonderful if it was not. But you do need to manage yourself, because once you start acting out of resentment, ego, or relief, you are no longer leaving strategically. You are just reacting. And reactive exits are often the ones people regret later. The sixth principle is this: remember that industries are smaller than they look. A lot of people leave as if they will never cross paths with anyone again. That is usually naive. Professional worlds have a funny way of folding back on themselves. The colleague you casually dismissed may end up at your next company. The manager you left poorly may know someone interviewing you 3 years from now. The executive assistant you treated like an afterthought may later become a key operator somewhere important. The peer you gossiped with during your last week may one day be in a position to recommend you or not. This is why leaving well is not about being fake. It is about being wise. You are not just leaving a job, you are exiting a network of relationships, and relationships have a longer shelf life than people realize. The seventh principle is this: do not confuse honesty with carelessness. Some people say, I'm just being honest, when what they really mean is, I've stopped filtering myself because I'm leaving. That is not the same thing. Professional honesty still requires judgment. It still asks, is this necessary? Is this constructive? Is this the right time? Is this the right audience? Will this create clarity or just friction? Mature professionals know that not every true thing needs to be said, and not every feeling needs to become part of the exit process. Sometimes, the most powerful kind of professionalism is restraint, not because you are afraid, not because you have nothing to say, but because you understand the difference between expression and wisdom. And finally, here is the deeper truth underneath all of this. The way you leave tells people who you are when the relationship no longer benefits you. That is the real test. It is easy to be polished when you need the job. It is easy to be careful when your future inside the company depends on it. It is easy to look professional when there is a clear incentive. But who are you when you are leaving? Who are you when the leverage changes? Who are you when you no longer need to impress the room in the same way? That is often when character becomes most visible, and people notice. They notice whether you stayed gracious. They notice whether you kept your standards. They notice whether you made the transition easier or harder, and they notice whether you left with integrity. So if you are thinking about resigning, or if you are in a season where that next move may be coming soon, remember this. How you join an organization matters, but how you depart matters too. Leave clearly and respectfully. Leave with discipline. Leave with a strong handoff. Leave without turning your final weeks into an emotional spillover period, and leave in a way that protects both your reputation and your future relationships. Because good professionals do not just know how to start strong, they know how to finish well. And if you want more practical support, I've included links in the description to free resources on the website, along with my book, The Strategy Blueprint, a step-by-step guide to building your company strategy, available on Amazon. If this episode resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the Work Chat for more practical conversations on workplace communication, leadership, confidence, and navigating the modern world of work. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What do you think is the biggest mistake professionals make after they resign? Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode.